This is Bunmi. I am hosting from Cyprus. So welcome everybody on Radio Works World. I'm really excited to be on here again as the Crystal host. And what I really love is what I'm going to talk about in a minute. But yes, I'm on Cyprus, I'm on holiday. I reside in London. And I have some friends out here and we're doing a business mastermind, which is really exciting and just really packaging my fantastic product, which as I said, I'm really passionate about and I want to get out there. So anyway, I'll just tell you a little about myself. I'm a dentist by profession. I'm also what we call a crystal manifesting expert. So I help entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs who are struggling with lack of self-belief, clarity, blocks to moving forward, to get clear, get motivated, and to launch their intentions for success. So how did all this start? Because as I said, I'm a dentist by profession and I've been in the profession for 30 years. And I'm going to go back a few years really, back to 2008, where I was going through some pretty challenging times. I was going through a divorce, my health wasn't good, I was what we call a high achiever, everything had to be perfect. So I was going through what I know today as burnout, and burnout is it's a dysfunction. It's an inability to be able to see that you're overdoing it. Everything is, can't be perfect, and your lists get bigger and bigger and bigger every day. And I was working in a very high pressured profession. Still am today, but it's not as high pressured because I know how to balance things. Two very young boys at the time, beautiful boys today, they're teenagers, and yep, going through the midst of a very chaotic divorce. I wasn't very well, I wasn't very happy, I was on the edge, I wasn't sleeping very well, I'd lost a lot of weight, which for me was, surprising people because I do like my food. I was virtually, emaciated. I wasn't eating the right things. I wasn't sleeping very well whatsoever. And I just got sicker and sicker and sicker. But I was still trying to maintain an appearance of normality, that everything was okay. But inside, I just knew I was crumbling. I wasn't functioning at my best. So it was like a vicious circle, really. People were telling me to slow down, to go and seek medical help. And, it was surprising because, as a dentist, I would have gone to seek medical attention, but I didn't feel like it was the best route for me. It didn't feel the best solution because I knew that it was just going to treat my symptoms, but not the root cause. I've, thought about it before I go on antidepressants or any other medication. So, try and do the best at the time. But what I was finding, I still wasn't doing my best, to take care of myself. Then a friend one day decided to sort of approach me and say, look, you're not going anywhere with this. It's getting worse. Do you want to see my friend who's a shaman? Now, I'd never heard of a shaman before. I didn't know what they did. And I just thought, well, I'm not going to try it. It sounds a bit woo-woo, a bit witchcrafty. But to my surprise, I turned around to her sort of a few days later and say, look, I am desperate. Let me try this lady. So she called her, booked me in with her. And the first thing I saw were crystals everywhere. I just kept a very open mind, and she told me to lie on the bed. I had these crystals on me and I closed my eyes, and I don't know what happened really after that, but once I woke up, I did feel a little bit better, but then I thought, well, is that a placebo? Is that something just telling me, yeah, you've had these things plonked on you, so therefore you're going to feel better? So again, I was a little bit skeptical that, that scientific head was still in, running its, running the cogs. But I thought, right, okay, I'll go back to another one. So I actually did feel immediately better. I felt function a little bit more. I could focus on what I was doing, because before that I wasn't focusing very well on anything for too long. So my attention span was greatly reduced. Then I went to, I attended another 2 or 3 crystal healing sessions, and it just opened the doors. It just, for me, it blew me away. I was absolutely gobsmacked at the effect it had. And that was to achieve a certain amount of calm, a certain amount of harmony, and a certain amount of peace within myself. And that's what I was desperately looking for, going through this really bad time, was to be able to have some sense of peace no matter what was going on. And that's all I prayed for, was I just need some peace, even if it was 30 minutes of just pure peace. That's what I really dreamed of having. And this opened the doors to a whole day of peace, 2 days of peace, that even despite what was going on around me, I was feeling more peaceful in myself. And then I realized from that point of power, and that was a point of power, as being at peace with myself, I could actually make changes. So looking after myself more, there was crystals there to help me with my well-being. And I didn't realize this at the time until I spoke to Anna afterwards, that there was crystals there to help me get back on my feet wellness wise, because without my health, I couldn't cope with what was going on. So I was sleeping a lot better. I was taking steps to, yes, I was putting on a bit of weight. I was doing a little bit of exercise, and I turned to yoga at this particular point in time. Yoga really, again, helped me balance myself, helped me to focus on the here and now. So that was a really good step for me. So that was the first little steps for me to be able to get some sanity. And then from then on, I started to look at, there was light at the end of the tunnel, that divorce wasn't the end for me. It was the beginning. It was the beginning of a life I truly wanted to create. I was in a situation which I was never happy with, and I'm sure my ex was never happy with. But I was in a situation which I loved my boys and everything else, but the situation, I think, also exacerbated my sort of burnout, maybe escaping my kind of where I was living, what I was doing, through working harder and harder and harder, and it wasn't solving the problem, it was just making it worse. So eventually I just carried on with Anna for a few more months, and I was functioning back at best. I was starting to balance my life, so cutting back on work. Before I was stepping it up and ramping, everything was ramped up, everything was heightened when I was ill. Everything had to be larger than life, exaggerated. And at this point in time, it was stepping back to feeling really comfortable with myself, comfortable in my own skin, happy with what was around me and who was around me, and been able to start making those changes step by step, in a balanced way, in a calm way. I could seek advice from people without pushing them away, saying you don't know what you're talking about. And been able to look and formulate a life that I knew I was going to step into, and I was stepping in while I was going through that divorce. So that got me very curious about crystals and how they worked. And as a scientist, initially I thought, oh, it's all gobbledygook, and all this complementary stuff was rubbish, and I used to laugh at it. But after my experience with Anna and my kind of impending burnout, I started to take a really serious look at, what these crystals were about, and, started to study them, started to see what each crystal did for me. So I had fun with them. I went out, I used to go to the crystal shops, to find what crystals really worked for me, what stood out for me, what I found attractive. And you tend to find in the crystal world that if you find a very attractive crystal, you think, wow, that looks amazing. That crystal actually wants to work with you. It has properties that want to help you. And there is a science behind crystals and crystal healing. I'm not going to go into that too much at the moment, but there is a science behind it. There's a metaphysical aspect of it, but there's a scientific aspect to it. It possesses fire electricity, piezoelectricity. We are surrounded by crystals, and people don't realize this. They're surrounded by crystals. They're not just beautiful baubles. They're just not little pretty trinkets, to put around your neck, which they are. They're beautiful, but they're used in lasers. So the first laser that was formed in the 1960s, it was the ruby that was the tip of that to aid concentration and focus. They're in quartz watches, quartz, clear quartz in a watch. They're in computers. Silicon chip is a crystal. Liquid crystal display on your computer screen, that is a crystal. So we're surrounded by technology and crystals. So they've been working for us for thousands and thousands of years. And at this point in time, they're used in modern day science and technology. So that was my first kind of awareness that, we are working with crystals already that store huge amounts of data and store huge amounts of electricity and can actually transmit that at a steady rate. Now, sort of moving away from that, it kind of resonated with me. And I thought, right, so if they can do that in technology, then they can help us with what we need. So yeah, I sort of went to courses, workshops, and then eventually became a qualified healer. And I've used them on myself again to keep myself well. I know that if I need, to sleep better, I'll use amethyst. If I'm feeling a bit bad about myself, I use rose quartz. So this is an ongoing thing. I didn't stop using crystals after my kind of impending burnout. I've used them constantly since then for various reasons. And then what I also found out that crystals not only just help your well-being, physical well-being, but your mental well-being and your spiritual well-being, but also they help you in aspects of your life, like your love life, like say your love life, say health-wise. There's crystals for arthritis. There's crystals for um, learning. So I found that there was crystals for things, practical things. So when I set up my business a few years after that, I don't know, I just innately thought I'm going to start using crystals to help me within my business. And I started to use them for manifesting opportunities, meeting the right people, having the right contacts. And they worked amazingly in what we call a crystal grid. Crystal grid is a set of stones rather than one stone, set in a geometrical pattern aligned with your intentions, set in a sacred space or a particular place to manifest your abundance, your intentions, your goals, your dreams, your desires. And I thought it was just highly effective. And I was really surprised how powerful that ancient and beautiful art was, which dates back 6,000 years. So for my well-being, I set up grids to really help me and keep me balanced through my journey. But I also set up specific grids for my business. And, it started to take off. And I thought there's no coincidence with this. This is not a coincidence. This is, these grids with crystals want to work with me, want to amplify everything that I'm doing for success. So I decided, right, okay, because I'm in business and I love business, I'm going to start helping business people. And that is my niche, female entrepreneurs particularly, but business in general. And at the moment, I'm helping a life coach. I've helped a network marketer and football players. So my range is, increasing. But everybody wants success. So setting up grids are the end part. The first goal is to get clarity around the goals, intention setting, setting up various design statements. But I also use, it's a multi-holistic approach, really. It's an integrated approach using Reiki, because I've then qualified with Reiki and other modalities. So, and it's really, really powerful. And so my passion really is helping in business and helping people to achieve their goals and ultimately financial abundance. So helping people to move forward fearlessly, get their intentions clear. You can use crystals for that. intention setting, there's crystals for that particular part. Motivation, there's specific crystals to get you geared up and fired up and passionate, and then ultimately success. So that is my bag, and that is my absolute passion, and I just really want to share that. And I'm so pleased that I've been invited to share on Radio Works World, and thank you, Marina and Arnie, for inviting me onto that. And I hope to also have my friend there who is a football player, a famous football player in England, who approached me to set up a grid to win the finals of a particular match. And I was really honoured to be able to do that. And their team won in spectacular style. And he did come back to me and say, you know, he couldn't have written that back better than myself. But to come, my journey helped me create my passion. So from despair came great joy for me and great passion and great drive, and something that I want to help other people with. We have lots of people to help on the what would I say, lots of business coaches, for instance, to help businesses to do particular things. But there's also a tremendous vibrational side that not a lot of people realize are part of attracting your ideal client, attracting abundance, and you have to align yourself with that vibration. And so when people say, oh, I'm struggling to get this, I'm struggling to get that, I'm not achieving this amount of money, I'm not getting this ideal client, it's because vibrationally they've not been set up, they've not been tweaked to be in alignment to achieve that. And that is what my coaching session does, and my final grid setup with a client does, is to help them achieve that. So yep, I'm looking forward to being Radio Works World and talking about it. And my if you want my contact address, it's greetings@bunmi.com. So thank you very much.